Hey everyone, your mortgage friend here. Just making sure this is working all right. It's my first time using this contraption, so hopefully you can hear me okay. But I wanted to make this video today because I've been having some conversations with some folks recently in regards to renting and why renting's always not the funnest thing to do. And I apologize if my voice is a little manlier and deeper than normal. It's just because I have a cold, so sorry about that. So anyway, wanted to make this video and talk about the 3 reasons I think renting stinks. So my big thing is I come from a customer service background. I've had a lot of jobs where it was managing restaurants or dealing with customers very closely, as is my job right now as a mortgage advisor. I meet with people face to face or over the phone. And I understand that one of the biggest things for folks that we meet with is to create a value for them. And my number one thing that I don't like about renting, especially an apartment complex, is that they don't seem to understand the fact that there needs to be some value given other than essentially their service, right? And, you know, it doesn't have to be, but with today's competitive market and all these different businesses competing, one of the biggest thing is how can we provide value, right? So that being said, that's my biggest gripe, is there's all these places out there fighting for their customers' business, but when it comes to renting, it seems like they're not quite on that same page. My experience with renting is that typically after you've rented for maybe about a year, something happens. So before I say that, I'll back up a little bit. So anytime I spend a lot of time with a brand, typically you're rewarded as a customer as you've been with them for a little while, right? You get points or you get some kind of benefits or maybe something for your birthday, things like that. Little things, and they add up. Now with renting, the only thing I've ever experienced is that after a year, my rent goes up. That's right. Thank you for renting with us, but we're going to increase that for you now. Huh? Seems a little weird to me. It seems like, hey, shouldn't I be rewarded for staying here? So it actually became super inconvenient for me because every year I was moving because I didn't want to pay that extended fee. Why pay more for one place when I can go to another place and get an introductory rate, right? So it didn't make sense for me. I'm someone that, didn't want to spend that extra $100 or $150 a month. I would rather just spend $150 once to rent a moving truck and then move my stuff. So that's me. That's my first complaint. Now, my second complaint is fees, and fees. I felt like when I was renting, it was constantly a barrage of fees, right? If I had a pet, congratulations, there's a fee. Pet rent, right? If I wanted to park in their parking lot, congratulations, a parking fee. Or a covered parking fee, right? How about when you're moving out? Typically when you go spend time at a hotel or anything like that, everything's covered within their fee. Their one flat fee or whatever it is that you're paying for their service. I felt like for when I was renting an apartment, it was constantly just more and more fees. So not only had I spent thousands of dollars over the course of a year, but now all of a sudden I have to pay $300 to $400 to clean my apartment, despite me cleaning it myself. So there was one instance where my wife and I had actually gone through and we had cleaned the apartment, deep cleaned. Had the rugs professionally cleaned. My wife got the paint from the main office and went in and touched up any paint that was maybe chipped off or anything through the year that we were there, any holes from photos, stuff like that. Most of it had been there prior to us moving in. And so here she is, she's patching, she's painting, things that weren't even there, were there when we moved in. And then as we move out, to my surprise, we have a painting fee, an apartment cleaning fee, carpet cleaning fee, all these fees. And I went into the office and I said, hey, I paid for this. I did this. We can cover this. We can show receipts for this. Is there any way around this? Because we really made an effort to try to take care of this as we moved out. And they said, sorry, that's just the way it is. And to be fair, I think they did remove maybe the painting fee. They came in and they looked at it and they said, all right, we see that you kept a nice thing. We know that you still have a bucket of paint from the main office here, so we'll remove that. And listen, I get that there's logistical reasons and business reasons to charge these fees. I'm just saying, as a customer in a very competitive market, it just kind of stinks to see that. And even if they were to put those costs within their monthly rent throughout the course of the 12 months or the 6 months, whatever you do, it makes sense to me that as a customer, it's just a better perception, right? Now, along with these fees, you always have to pay a deposit. A deposit which, in my experience, I rarely got back, and in the experience of others that I know. And again, when you go to check out, it's that last day or the last couple weeks, and you ask for that deposit back, it ends up going to some fee, something that you had to pay on your way out. Which again, that's okay if we're clear at the very beginning. Hey, you're probably not going to get this deposit back, right? So I think, especially for new renters, it's something that they need to be more clear about. And so that's something I don't like. I think they're kind of shady about that, and I understand things have to be paid for, but maybe be a little bit smoother in the way that you do it. So the third thing I have is kind of a combination of things, and it's no privacy, but you also have the full liability of anything that happens in that apartment complex. Now, this is what I mean. So you have neighbors below you, next to you, above you, you can hear everything, right? A lot of times these walls are paper thin, so who knows what everyone's doing. You can hear them messing around or whatever. And you never know what's going on in the other room, right? You could be a perfectly law-abiding citizen, you keep the place clean, all this stuff, but the person next to you is playing with matches or doesn't know how to use a stove or whatever. I mean, just doing dangerous stuff, and you're at risk for that. And so that's not really anyone's fault. That's just kind of what comes with renting. But that's something I didn't like. I was very uncomfortable. No matter how safe I tried to make that place feel, like a home, I was always worried about what was going on around me. Because ultimately, if I'm making sure everything's tidied up or cleaned up, stoves off, microwaves off, whatever it is, when I leave, someone below me who maybe isn't as responsible could do a lot of damage and really inconvenience someone. Right? So that's kind of that thing. Now, the no privacy thing I wanted to talk about, and I'm interested if any of you have experienced something like this, please comment. But in my experience, they snoop around in your apartment. They do those annual inspections and all this stuff. Now, here's the thing is they're never going to tell you it's snooping around, okay? So, but they always do. Now, this kind of goes on two sides. One, I've had several friends that have been home during the day, and maintenance people just walk right in. In fact, one of my good friends who I've met at the first apartment complex I lived at, his wife was home showering in the middle of the day. She had the day off, and someone in the maintenance department just walks right on in, scared the heck out of her. And that's something that is dangerous not only to you and your family members, but also to the people walking in. Who's to say that I wasn't sitting there with a shotgun, or my friend wasn't sitting there with a shotgun just ready because he thought his house was getting broken into, right? So I think it's both sides. One, it's not safe for those that are there, but also not for those maintenance folks as well. So I think that there needs to be a clear boundary. Again, I'm not saying all apartments do this, but I'm saying a lot do. Another interesting thing about that same apartment complex when it comes to privacy is I was actually on the phone with the district manager, talking to her and disputing something that was unrelated to privacy. But somehow these inspections came up. And she said on the phone, without me even probing her, she said that many people think that these inspections are to snoop around. And you know what? They are. That's what she said, quote unquote. Many people think that these inspections are to snoop around, and you know what? They are. So in her anger, she let out that little piece of information that it wasn't just to go check to make sure things are functioning or make sure that nothing illegal is happening. It's really just for them to snoop around. And that's why they do it when you're not at home a lot of times. So that was something I thought was really shady. So when you're in an apartment complex, one of the things that I think stinks is no matter how good of a person you are, no matter how good of rapport you have or of a record being there or anything, it's not really yours, A, and B, they can come in anytime they want. And they think that they can, they can because they legally own it, but still there's no privacy. There's no protection for you as the consumer, right? So those are my 3 big stinks with renting. One, again, is that customer value. I think it's time for these apartment complexes to start offering, a lot of value for their customers, and maybe some do. But the ones that I have been in have all been give me, and not giving, which I think ultimately is not good for that industry. And it just takes one smart person to come in and start swooping up business if they understand that. That second issue was fees, crazy fees, and then that third issue being no privacy and all the liability of everyone around you. So I wanted to share those thoughts with you. Tell me what you think in the comments of this video. Am I wrong? Have you experienced some of the same things? Like I said, I'm sure this isn't everyone, but myself and many people that I surround myself with all have kind of these horror stories of apartment complexes and that boundary of privacy being crossed, and also trust, and just being sneaky with all the fees and things that they put in. So anyway, if you are renting right now, it may be easier to get into a home than you think. You don't know where to go unless you know where you're at, right? So feel free to message me. Again, I'm Anthony Hernandez, your mortgage friend, a mortgage advisor here at Veritas Funding, and I'd love to talk to you. No commitment necessary. I'd love to just talk to you about some of your options and some of the wonderful tools that are out there in order for you to get your first home, or get another home, whatever you'd like. So anyway, if you're looking or you're thinking about looking, feel free to message me. And it's always important to remember that buying or looking for a new home isn't scary if you have the right friend. To find out more, message me or go to applywithanthony.com. Again, that's applywithanthony.com. So guys, thank you so much. This is my first Facebook Live in a while. I'm excited. Thanks for bearing with me. Hopefully some of this we can relate. Hopefully we all experience some of this tough stuff, and we can laugh about it. Laugh about it together and move forward, but it's just the way it is. We'll see you guys later. Thanks so much.